I remember last year, working at Arby's. 22. I think I was actually 23 years old, working at Arby's. You know what I mean? I wasn't flipping no burgers, but, I was like, putting down tenders. You know what I mean? Working at Arby's, man, with 16-year-olds, trying to just talk to them and inspire them and let them know, like, hey, this journey, it gets deep. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, what I had to realize was that I was really done apologizing for my success. I was done apologizing for my greatness and for the person that I was. I was very ashamed to be her. And the reason being was because I was afraid of success. I think when you grow up and you kind of grow up in like a sense of, when you grow up in the community that is poor, you know what I mean? When you grow up in a community that's broken, when you grow up in a community that is, is centered around scarcity. You know what I mean? You really start to feel like, oh man, you know what I mean? And so I think for me, it's like when I look at my life, man, I would always try to overcompensate. I would try to overcompensate for my greatness. I would always try to apologize and make people feel comfortable. And this is what I was talking about in this last episode. And it's like, for me, I had to realize, like, absolutely not. The reason why I'm successful is because I did the things that you weren't willing to do. And so what are you upset about? And this is the thing that really gets me hot. And I'm so passionate about this. I get so upset in regards to like people who are envious and jealousy. I will never understand it. How are you upset at somebody for making the moves that you were too afraid to make? What are you mad about? You know what I mean? And that's just my thing. And what I realized with so many people was like, there was no reason to even speak to that. You know what I mean? There was no reason to even fuel that fire, because at the end of the day, they'll never understand it. You know what I mean? 23, man. I'm in my little Chevy, my little hoopty. You know what I mean? She breaking down on me. Broke down on me in the middle of the street. This lady like just swerve around me. She calls me a dumb bee. I'm like, dang, like my car just broke down. You know what I mean? Those moments of humility. And I think about it, man, like just everything I've been through up until this point in my life. It's like when I look back on it, I'm like, dang, that was crazy. But I can't even really look at it like it was a moment of just like sadness or when I ever went without, because first and foremost, during those times, I was the closest to God. You know what I mean? And I love that. And I enjoyed those still moments. Not only did he walk alongside me in my entire journey, he renewed me. You know what I mean? He instilled his faith within me. And I became very wise of a lot of things. I learned a lot of things when I was in that season. I became very independent. I became very strong. I became the woman that I am today. And I would not change that for anything. You know what I mean? God is such an amazing God. And I just think that when it comes to your success and your abundance, it's a price you got to pay. And I'm thankful. You know what I mean? I'm so thankful. I would not change any of that. And like I said, when I think back on those moments, for me, I think it was just endurance. I really feel like the only thing that got me through, of course, was God's grace. But more than, in addition to that, was just like my positive attitude. Everything in my life, I've always been the type of person to daydream. I remember growing up in my household, sometimes it was kind of dark, you know what I mean? And I was always daydreaming. I think that was, a lot of people will kind of label it as ADHD, but when I grew up, daydreaming was my escape. I would just, every time I was in a dark place, I would always just think of something better. If I would get picked up from school, I had a bad day, I was bullied, I would just look out the window. I'm not kidding, and I would just look at the sky and I would just think of better days. I was always in that space, and so when like Tumblr came around, when I was like coding, I was like 12, I really got into just, imagery, and so I think for me, that's when it kind of started. And my dad had this game, I think it was called, it was like a racing game. I cannot think of it. And I talked about it, I feel like, in a earlier episode. But yeah, it was this racing game. I would drive this Audi, and I'm like, I'm going to get me an Audi. And the game was so cool because it was like a downtown Los Angeles. And so, I think about the exposure that I had and the things that I wanted. I just always had the ability to dream. And I'm so thankful for that. I've always kept my imagination very active. You know what I mean? I've always fed it, and so that was the thing. And so when it came to Tumblr and I got to school, I would go online and I would print out pictures. I learned how to like print, you know how that is. So I would print pictures out of things I seen on Tumblr, the LV bags, living in Cali, meeting different artists. And so I didn't even realize at the time, but I was making vision boards, and those were the things that really kept me afloat. And so, yeah, I don't apologize for my success. I don't apologize for the woman that I am. I don't apologize for when I make people feel uncomfortable. And so many women say, oh, you have to scale back. Absolutely not. For what? Now, do I walk around with my foot on people's necks, knowingly and overtly? Absolutely not. I think confidence is something that's radiating from within you. And this is what I try to tell women all the time. It's like, sweetheart, you walk around saying you're the baddest this, you're the baddest that, you got this going on, you a boss chick, but you're insecure and it shows up in your energy. That's not really how you're moving. You don't even talk like that. You don't even walk like that. You don't even sit like that. You know what I mean? So I think what I try to stress to women and to people in general is you got to run your own race. I say this all the time, but you have to run your own race. Run your own race and pay your dues. You have to pay dues. I don't know why people think this society this is the thing with social media, you guys. It's got it all so distorted. Nothing is free. You're not going to just be able to walk up into some money or into six figures, into a business, into certain things with that attitude, with that level of insecurity, with that level of ignorance, with that level of envy, that jealousy, that hate in your heart, that maliciousness in your heart. You're not going to be able to walk up and to do what you think you about to. Girl, who you think you is? You know what I mean? And so this is the thing, and this is what I try to tell people all the time. You have to become it, and that was something that I was always focused on, and even still continuously. I'm a work in progress. I'm continuously praying for that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, I just kind of wanted to get on here and share that because I know this was a long episode, but I'm just going to wrap it up here. At the end of the day, sweetheart, you got to pay a price. Nothing is going to just come to you, especially as a woman. I truly believe it. We do have to work harder. I thought for a while, was it a limitation? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Especially not compared to, okay, whatever. But you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. And so at the end of the day, you got to run your own race and you have to pay your own price and get on the road. A lot of people think they're going to be successful, but I'm telling you right now, you can think it all you want, but if you ain't going to put no work in, it's not happening. It's not happening. How could you get a New York Times bestseller without a book? You know what I mean? How could you get a great novel without editors? How can you run a business with, you know what I mean? And it goes back to that foundational groundwork, and God tells us all the time, faith without works is dead. You got to sow your seeds, baby girl. It's a time to reap. It's a time to sow, So at the end of the day, when you see people who are in position, just know that they paid a price. Now, everybody's not willing to tell you their story, and we got to respect that. It's some things that people have done to get to wealth that they may not be proud of. You know what I mean? It's some things that people have done to get to their wealth that they just don't care to share. That's not any of their business. That's not their purpose. That's not the space in which they're called to. So we have to respect that. But I'm going to just wrap up by saying that, sweetheart, everything costs. Okay? So, all right.